You know, some say hope may not be a strategy, but it is definitely the very thread to the next breath of life. Good morning. Welcome to your perfect morning starter. Right here on Channels Television, I am Bukola Koka, and I'm here with my brothers, Jeffrey and Kadi. Seems like we all got the memo in different ways today, Tuesday. Hi, guys. How are you doing?
I'm all right. Good morning and welcome, Bukola. Let me welcome you. And also welcome to our audience. Thank you so much for joining us on the program. I'm Jeffrey Uzama.
Since we're in the mood of welcoming, welcome you to your perfect day start to the morning brief. I'm Karaoke Kulu. We're live in Lagos.
Yes, indeed. Hi, guys. So, what did I miss?
Unfortunately, the things you miss are not good things. And the one that has literally, I know we're going to talk about it, is the incident in Plateau. I'm happy it's in what we're having as a conversation. I just feel that Nigeria needs to, is it introspect, is that the word now? We need to get our humanity back. Perhaps some of us have lost our humanity. We need to get that humanity back. We need to be empathetic. We need a leadership at subnational, whether it's local, state, and federal level, to have a bit of compassion. I think sometimes the political class have a few things, but one of the things that is obviously missing in a lot of the political class is compassion. When we normalize this death toll incident, I remember it was in 2023 when the carnage on the Plateau happened, where about 150 people in one fell swoop were killed. It sounds like literal genocide to me. Not too far away from then, I think in January, another set of 50. And then now we have seen in less than 2 weeks in Plateau, 100 plus people have been killed. Over 60 communities I heard have been overtaken and even renamed. It's just confusing. It's difficult to process. It's difficult to understand. And that's just what bothers me. Anyway, I don't want to go deep into it. I also have my own little thing with the president over this issue as well, because the last time I raised the effect that with what happened then, the president never visited Plateau. He hasn't visited Plateau. There are two places I expect the president, when he comes back to visit, a place like Plateau, a place like Benue. The level of killings in these two states is very worrying. Anyway, guys.
Jeffrey, you just might be in the spirit this morning, because Plateau also seems to be on my mind, and for good reason. I just, in the last 12 hours, sat down and I began to think about the plight of the people in Plateau State, not just in Plateau, in the North Central, and thankfully there may be some stability, a sense of peace now in southern Kaduna, but these areas have always been troubled, and the narrative from these areas have always been genocidal killings, unprovoked attacks, people attacked right in the middle of the night while they're asleep, and the narrative is always, we had always lived together peacefully. This has land grabbing, as a coloring all over it. And I wonder if 100 people have been killed in Plateau State within a matter of days, and there has been no declaration of a state of emergency. Do we place more value on crude oil and the foreign exchange that comes from crude oil, as we have seen following the declaration of a state of emergency in River State, than on human life? People in Benue State are not even safe while they're in internally displaced persons camps. They're not safe while they're there, and so many of them cannot return to their homes anymore. As Jeffrey said, the governor of Plateau State said, only days ago, that 64 communities have been renamed and occupied by bandits. That means that there is some evidence that points to those who are doing this. Who are those who have occupied this, reoccupied these areas and renamed them? Following this latest round of killings, we have heard that indeed those who may have perpetrated these attacks are somewhere still on the mountains hiding. There's a trail there, and there is no deliberate effort by security agents. There is no sense of alarm from government that there is something obviously wrong and untoward. My admonition this morning is that the people should think deeply about these gaping issues as they go to the next general elections before they make informed choices about their next set of leaders. Kayode.
Absolutely, guys. And make no mistake, something is wrong here. Something is not right. In fact, many things are not right here. The president cannot say that this is deeply rooted in misunderstanding, describe it as tit for tat. The people say, well, this is land grabbing, this is an attack from herdsmen. Security agencies say, well, there's no coloration, either ethnicity or religious, it's just criminality. And of course, the government is, and I'm talking state government now, is convening a security meeting saying that, well, they'll find an end to this. The president saying that, well, I had given him some advice on how to sort this out. So clearly, lots of things are way off when it comes to what's playing out on the Plateau. But not to worry, we're going to give you all of the insights on the show this morning. And speaking of that, we're also touching base with Rivers State. Oh yes, where the state of emergency continues to generate controversy. Over the past few days, we've had two separate groups of women now staging rallies, or call it protests, walks, some opposing the emergency rule, some in support of it. And then all of a sudden, the 300 million naira matter came in the mix as well. So we continue this long unwinding story in Rivers State with the latest one.
And that's not all. We have said earlier that we'll touch on Plateau State. But besides that, we also talk about reforms. As a people, we need to continually hold our elected officials. Of course, you see the impact of the attack on communities in Plateau State right there. So we're going to be having that conversation on the program today. See what we can make of it, if we can make sense of this evidently senseless attack and little value for human life.
All right, away from those incidents of killing, but closely related about reforming, looking at Nigeria, as much as we need to continue to have the conversation about our state of the nation. Najatu Bala Muhammad, an activist who has been pushing for systemic reforms, will be joining us on the program today as we explore the way forward for Nigeria.
And let's talk business, right? And it's Ease of Doing Business Tuesday. We'll be focusing on the textile industry and how practitioners in the space are faring, as well as the challenges they face.
And that's not all. It's a bumper package, as we always say. This week's edition of Diaspora Connects puts the spotlight on Oyeme Ehihame, an actress and beauty queen who is also the reigning Miss Diaspora Nigeria USA. That's heavy, right? You find out what all of that symbolizes from the beauty queen herself right here on the show.
Fantastic. So I don't know whether you pronounce that name correctly, but it sounds like you pronounce it correctly. So nice one. I really like the way you put it together.
Well,
anyway,
I understand you, Jeffrey. You're half Edo right now.
Yeah, my wife is Edo State, so I can understand. But it's quite difficult to pronounce their names. You know, they have like 3 consonants before 1 vowel, so it's a lot of
shots fired.
It's a lot of work to do.
Consonant cluster.
Don't forget, you can join us. You can be part of the program by email, as well as post on X, and we're going to start off with that as well. Post on X on CTV Morning Brief. We're going to talk about that, what you're saying, but the WhatsApp is not ready. But, okay, guys, are we starting from the trend or the papers?
Yeah, we head to the papers.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's start with the dailies. Okay, this Nigeria is where we'll get to start from. And the headlines is just screaming as loud as it should be. This Nigeria leads with Plateau and bloodbath. Tinubu charges Moftwang. Death toll now 51. Terrorists may soon take over southeast region. Kalu raises the alarm. So that's the screaming headlines as far as this Nigeria is concerned. When we've talked about this, it's almost emotional for me to talk about it because it looks like we're losing our soul as a country. We're just normalizing people being killed and people dying. I read the president's statement. Yet again, I was not impressed. I expected more from the Commander-in-Chief of the Armed Forces of the Federal Republic of Nigeria. We cannot pretend that we don't know what the problem is. I think that would be a lie. And some level of You know, we just need a bit more action. A bit more action. So this Nigeria leads with end bloodbath, Tinubu charges motion. Guys?
Well, up next on paper review is Blueprint Newspapers. It's a departure from what's very concerning that is happening in Plateau State. It touches on politics, and that's, you know, by every standard, an interesting development. It makes me ask, who's speaking for the PDP now? Is it the spokesperson, the BOT Board of Trustees, or the PDP Governors Forum? Well, listen to this. You may have heard PDP governors rock Atiku's 2027 ambition, oppose coalition. There are two riders that provide insight. Reject Anyanwu, name Deputy National Secretary as scribe, fix neck for May 27. And of course, you also have the second rider there, ex-VP, Bala's children, trade words over parents' ambition. So if you want to get more insight into what exactly is happening, particularly as there are different dimensions to this particular rendering, you may have to pick up a copy of this Nigerian newspaper and look on the inside pages. Of course, this followed that very popular visit from the weekend of former Vice President and presidential candidate of the PDP to former President Muhammadu Buhari, alongside some very curious and prominent faces during that meeting. So you get all of the details on the front page of Blueprint newspaper. And of course, it also trails on the Plateau story. And there, on the Niger Delta, you find troops snap 28 suspects, foil re-establishment of bunkering sites. That's in the Niger Delta. That's it for Blueprint newspaper.
Now take a look at The Guardian. The Guardian focuses on electricity. You see, Genco's threatened shutdown. Over 4 trillion naira debt as Band A customers protest. Oh yes, you can say that again. So
what
exactly is going on? And just a few days ago, you could hear the Power Ministry celebrating some additional input and all of that. But this is the reality now, and that's for the consumers. This is what they feel. This is what they know, right? But Genco's threatening shutdown over 4 trillion naira debt. This is something, it looks like rinse and repeat yet again. But you see, they continue to ramp up capacity as contractually agreed. But system constraints, forex volatility, and regulatory inconsistency, compounded by what they call inadequate market remittances, are rendering the sector commercially unviable. So that's the big story on the front page of The Guardian. But I always try to hunt for cheery news, and I'll give you this one after. Nigeria waives duties on 90% of goods traded in Africa. That's it.
So if you're a manufacturer, is this a good time for you? Find out more.
Let's get to the leadership newspaper. It leads with that PDP meeting that held in Ibadan yesterday, the Governors Forum. PDP governors reject Atiku El-Rufai Obi's coalition. Open doors to new members, fixes neck. Meeting for May 27. Condemn insecurity in Borno, Plateau, Katsina, and Edo. And also I know they are proposing convention earlier. Convention was supposed to be, I think, in December. They are pushing it, bringing it forward to, I think, August. And all of that. So that's the PDP situation. So the PDP Governors Forum, the NWC, the BOT, all of that. We hope that this time the NEC meeting will hold 2 days before the second administration of the people that are currently in government who were elected in 2023, so that there can be a way forward for the political parties, because it looks like the way the political parties, opposition political parties have been managed, they may give the APC a walk in the park in the next election, and that is not healthy for democracy. It's not healthy at all. Which other paper do we have to look at now?
Of course, we have the Nigerian Tribune. The Nigerian Tribune trails on what's happening in Plateau State. There you see the headline, 51 feared killed in fresh Plateau attack. And you have there the riders, killings in Benue, Plateau State, genocidal war. That's a strike to MBS. Well, there's a second rider. It's an inexcusable security failure. Amnesty International speaking there. And finally, from the riders, resolve underlying communal issues in your area. Tinubu tells Plateau governor. Well, these killings have been on for over a decade. So this may go beyond communal issues, particularly when you hear some commentaries, Jeffrey and Kaide, that those who come to perpetrate these heinous crimes sometimes speak foreign languages, and you wonder, is investigation leading anywhere? What's been happening to arrests made, sometimes? Are there prosecutions? Are there debriefings? What are people saying, those who have been debriefed, about what exactly it is that is happening in these communities? Very important questions.
Absolutely. So those are the dailies for you. Clearly, you can tell the mood of the nation from the front pages. But let's quickly touch base with our correspondent, Charles Oberum, who is live for us, Port Harcourt, the River State capital. Charles, I don't know if there's any protests lined up for today, but you've been covering previous protests. I mean, seeing the women in all white for state of emergency, another group of women against state of emergency on black. Walk us through that experience and the mood of Port Harcourt this morning, over the past few days.
Hi, good morning. Good morning, Kaide, Buki, and Jeff. As of this morning, I'm not aware there's a protest in Port Harcourt. I think yesterday's protests were enough, so to speak, that's on a lighter note anyways. So yeah, of course, yesterday's protests held in two different places in the States. The ones who were on white held their protests in Port Harcourt, while the other ones who were older, you see more older women, held their own protests at Mbiama in Ahoda West local government area, close to the boundary with Bayelsa. They were holding roughly at about the same time, okay? Now, the ladies on white, their protest appeared to me to be like something as though a response to last week's protest, because they were protesting, or rather, I wouldn't even call that a protest. I would call that like something like a solidarity march, if you like, because they were marching in solidarity with the sole administrator and expressing their support for President Tinubu's declaration of a state of emergency in the state. And they said, oh, okay, we are happy with it, we want it, we like it, and we are living comfortably with it. And during the interview session, when I was asking some of the ladies there, some of us journalists, we raised the question. The president said it's going to be 6 months. What are you looking at? And interestingly, one of the women there said, oh, that it should even go beyond 6 months. Right? It should go as long as required until peace, returns to River State. And that was very fascinating for me. So that was the one that happened in Port Harcourt. As for the one that happened in Mbiama, that one was, one calling for the return of the governor, the suspension of the state of emergency, and the return of all elected officials who were suspended by President Tinubu. Howdy.
Well, I know we'll still talk at some point about this mobilization economy or the culture of it. But I don't know, Bukola Jeffrey, if you want to chime in on this one as well.
Well, for me, Charles, I wonder what these series of protests is saying about sentiments amongst Rivers people, because there seems to be a lot of contradictions from the sound bites that we're hearing. You saying, for instance, that they say that since the coming in of the military administrator, there has been peace, no ethnic divisions. But is that a sense that you're getting, Charles, particularly when you cover these protests? They are saying return Sim, and these other people are saying no, there has been peace, there's no more division. What sense are you getting when you interact with Rivers people, particularly about ethnic sentiments and how it is coloring these political crises in Rivers?
Okay, so I'll answer that question, but before then, let me just quickly chime in on something Kaide said. He said something about mobilization. I tell you that the business of mobilization for protests is an economy of its own. Yeah, just so you know. There are people whose job it is to mobilize people to come out for protests. But we'll leave that now. If we leave that now, that's going to be conversation for another day. Now, about ethnic divisions with regards to peace and the situation, the truth is this. All through the political crisis, people outside River State thought or believed, erroneously I must add, that the state was unsafe, the state had a lot of crisis going on. So we have to delineate two of them. There was a political crisis. On one hand, it affected the executive arm of government versus the legislative arm of government. But this political crisis did not result, or there was no domino effect, which made it look like there was a breakdown of law and order. People go about their normal businesses here in Rivers State. People go to school, go to work, run their businesses, and there is really nothing on the street to show that anybody is threatened physically here in the state. So I have to draw that, separation here. Now, about the issue of ethnic crisis or an ethnic war, there is really no ethnic war here. We've heard rhetorics from people, on social media releasing videos. Oh, if you do this, we will do that. If you do that, we will do this. But at the end of the day, it almost always ends as though it's just words, being bantered from one group to the other. We've never really seen it result, into a breakdown of law and order.
Well, Charles, there's still the 300 million naira conversation, which I'm sure we'll be exploring in the coming days. But we have to thank you. You've said so far it looks like it's going to be a calm day today, but I trust that you get back to us as soon as anything breaks. Correspondent Charles Operum joining us live from Port Harcourt. Thank you so much for the update.
Thank you, Gary. Have a great day.
Well, that's the prayer. We'll take a quick break now, and when we return, well, your guess is as good as ours as to where we're starting off from. So stay with us. We'll be right back.
Welcome back. Let's get to that very conversation for the day that has to do with what is playing out in Rivers State. For and against the state of emergency and the suspension of constitutionally elected officials. Because it's a democracy. Some people are for it, some people are against it, based on their perspective. Bukola.
Yes, and joining us for this conversation, we have Mr. Uche Ken, who is a former vice chairman, Eche local government area in Rivers State, former PDP women leader, Eche local government, and DG Wikematic Women of Rivers State. She joins us virtually from Port Harcourt. And of course, we also have Chisom Bali, former Commissioner for Youth Development, Rivers State, who also joins us virtually from Port Harcourt, the capital of Rivers State. Good morning, gentleman and lady. Thank you for joining us on the program.
Good morning. Thank you for having me.
So I'm going to start with Madam Ken. Just confirm that you can hear me.
I am not hearing from here.
Okay. So we'll go to Mr. Bali and hope that Madam Ken can hear us in the course of the conversation. So I'm coming to you now. We've had this conversation with our correspondent and he's giving us an overview. But let's, catch that sentiment about what's playing out in Rivers State from a Rivers citizen or indigenous, the case may be. Tell us how you're, perceiving all of these.
Well, thank you for this opportunity. I'm here to clear the air on certain issues on the gross impunity going on in Rivers State as we speak. Now we at the point when the pronouncement by His Excellency the President of the Federal Republic was made on the state of emergency, we were shot in the dark. Some people saw it with mixed feelings. And we were like, okay, let us absorb, since we're having an external person that will come in to wade into the subsisting political crisis. Mind you.
Do we have Madam Ken around now? Can you hear me? Confirm that you can hear me. All right, we'll try to get both men back. But while we're doing that, Mr. Chisom, you may want to unmute your microphone, but there's we sense that there's an echo as you speak. and we hope that that can be taken care of, but perhaps after you have unmuted. So while we get that addressed, it will be important to understand particularly the logic of those who are protesting in favor of the state of emergency in Rivers State now, and in fact calling, for the extension for as long as possible, according to the reports that we're getting from Rivers State. How is that going to resolve the issues in Rivers State? And I heard nothing about that clause provided in the approval of the state of emergency by the National Assembly, which is to the effect that there should be a committee constituted to resolve the lingering crisis in Rivers. We'd like to know if, as much as those protesting in favor of the state of emergency in Rivers are saying that it should continue for as long, are they also concerned about the work of this committee and efforts to resolve peace? Because that's also critical, to that part of the conversation. I understand that Mr. Gbali is back now with us. Mr. Gbali, please go ahead and complete your thoughts.
Okay, like I was saying, the people of River State, like has always been peaceful, maintained that disposition over time. But what we had was political crisis, which we, in our assessment, were like when the president made the pronouncement that a third party, who is a neutral person, will come in, wade into the matter, and resolve it. But to our dismay, what we are seeing now is brazen impunity. Instead of the sole administrator to perhaps muster both parties, the warring factions, according to the third recommendation of the National Assembly of a high-powered committee that will bring all the warring parties to table. What they have now resorted to is to incite the group of the FCT minister to go on a reactionary protest. Recall that our people, the women of Rivers State, under the aegis of Rivers Women Unite for Sim, they protested that they want their governor, the person they voted for, their shining light back to Government House. And then all of a sudden, 2 days later, they had their own reactionary protests. And that is what panned out following the meeting the sole administrator had with some face.
Oh dear. We seem to have lost audio again through to Mr. Gbali.
The activities of youth in the state. So I know the youth bodies that are. Okay, in conclusion, what I'm saying is that the sole administrator, instead of doing what he was called to, is now sponsoring protests, giving money to faceless youth leaders to come and escalate issues, to cause problems so that they can eventually get what they are looking for. And we are refusing to join issues with them.
But Mr. Gbali, do you have evidence to prove that indeed it's the sole administrator that is sponsoring protests and using youths to cause unrest?
Yes, it's obvious. It's audible to the deaf and conspicuous to the blind. The other day, some faceless youth bodies, like I said, went to Government House. They are not registered. They are not known to law. And the administrator doled out 10 million to each group. And then the next day after that, what you saw was a protest. And then again, the local government that they have been, that's the cross of the whole, who holds the structure at the local government level. They've succeeded in breaking into illegality upon illegality, breaking into the council. Now they have sole administrators at the local government who is now sponsoring and bankrolling their activities. So we have evidence proof to that effect.
But that's inadequate to prove that it's the sole administrator that is responsible, for the economy of protests, because you cannot present any concrete evidence to that effect. And besides, we don't have a representative of the sole administrator, to disprove the allegations that you have made. So we're going to leave that in the realm of allegations. Let's come to Madam Ken now. I hope she's with us now and she can hear me loud and clear so that we can have a meaningful conversation. So, Madam Ken, Mr. Gbali has said quite a lot of things about what is happening. I hope you were following. He also said that the protest by the women in white, which I believe you're a part of, were reactionary to protests from last week by women in Rivers who are calling for the return of the democratically elected government in Rivers State. I'd like you to respond to this.
We have a lot of things about what is happening. The protest by the women and white, which I believe.
All right, we'll try to get Madam Ken back. Well, Mr. Gbali, let's continue with the conversation now while we try to get Madam Ken back. What can you say about efforts to resolve this before it got to this stage? Do you think that particularly the elders of River State exhausted all of the interventions at their disposal before a declaration of the state of emergency?
Well, as a disaster risk analyst, there's what we call disaster risk.
I am back.
Is have a situation that overwhelms the community and will call for external intervention. That is what we are seeing now. So what we expected is that an external body, committee, or whatever will bring the warring faction to the table. We have constitutional outlines on the governor's responsibility, the House of Assembly, and all that. But somebody needs to intervene. We thought that was one of the basic things that the administrator would have, started doing. But let me also address one particular matter I stated earlier. Our governor, His Excellency Sasimina Fobara, our lodester, our compass and direction, had a plan. And this plan is almost on autopilot before this eventual obstruction. Now, the governor saves money in quarterly basis and then uses it to pay backlog of projects. As you know, even the sole administrator alluded to it, that the governor had paid for all the ongoing projects. So the next phase of money is to start another project that we're about to flag off, especially during the second tenure in office. And now those funds are there. And those are the funds that are cutting away. Also, you also know that there's no subsistence appropriation law. There's no budget in Rivers State. So how are they using the money? Why are they using the money? They are looking for where to tie the funds down. They are cutting away funds every day. They also gave the outline that the governor left over 200-something billion naira. Because he's a prudent man, he tries to muster a fund and then use it for a certain project. And now that is what we're seeing in Rivers State. They're using it now anyhow they like, especially the illegal local government that have gone to form the other day.
All right, Mr. Gali, it's an ongoing conversation. Rivers, every other day there's something to talk about Rivers. It's almost exhausting and nauseating in sometimes. But at the end of the day, it's about looking for a way out of this. I'm just looking at the date. I think by Friday or Saturday, about those days, it's going to be exactly 1 month after the sole administrator took over. I mean, when the state of emergency was declared, I mean to say. And one of the things that was gazetted and was amended by is it amended now? But part of the items that was listed by the National Assembly in approving this state of emergency is to, form a committee that will bring peace or find a way to peace or a path to peace. It's almost a month. We haven't heard of anything. All we've heard, I guess, is the ad hoc committee to oversight River State, I think from the House of Reps or so. So in your view, if you were to speak to the president, because we're looking for a way out here, he's declared a state of emergency. He has the powers to, change his mind based on a few things. We know there's also the issue of constitutionality or constitutionality of the suspension of elected officials at the Supreme Court. Are you seeing anything from where you sit as an insider that there is any committee being set up and what can be done?
So in your view,
exactly what I'm saying. We've not seen any committee whatsoever. Now you have the record. It's up to 1 month. We have not seen anything committee. And now let me tell Nigerians, please, let's not sweep this under the carpet. A philosopher said, Napoleon Hill, he said that the world suffer a lot, not because of the violence of the bad people, but because of the silence of the good people. If River State is up in the air, if there's any kind of pogrom or problem, it will escalate. Now the youth are quick to quickly deceive because they are quick to believe, and they are getting exasperated, they are getting agitated. So now we need any external influence, like a committee. The president can make the pronouncement, the National Assembly, let them do that already. Because what is happening in River State, if not that we are trying to pacify our youth, the governor's disposition is a peaceful man, and that is why that pensions that they have on the governor, that's why they are still waiting and exercising patience. But patience, if they say exuberance is the prerogative of youth. So patience on the part of the youth, where I control, I know them. You will even be surprised that River State is still calm till now. The River State used to know. It's because of the person at the helm of affairs, because of the disposition of the governor of River State. That's why we're still where we are. We're still peaceful. And we'll continue to pacify them because they are trying to incite our youth. But we will not join issues with them. We want to maintain that. We are not going to join issues because we know we are together. We know the tactics of Minister of FCT is to incite problem. Look at the trajectory of River State. Since 1999, he became from local government chairman to the minister now. Every administration has been problem because of Minister of Wiki. Well, and all the former governors from the Majesty.
I understand that emotions are high right now, but he was only governor for 8 years. There were governors during other tenures. So I'd like us to just temper those words and speak to the issues, right? And let me just try Madam Ken yet again and confirm if you can hear us and you're able to contribute now. Okay, we'll stay with you, Mr. Gbani. Looks like Madam Ken's connection is a bit sketchy. When you accuse the other party in this sense now of mobilizing, paying, you claim that they gave 10 million naira each. How much did you pay the people that protested for you?
Like I told you earlier, I said River State was on autopilot before this obstruction. The Rivers Women Unite for SIM, they used to have their meeting every week. They have their prayers every week. So they are already on that before now. So what they did was just to do a procession, all right, calling His Excellency the President to please recall our democratically elected governor and the members of the State Assembly. And to correct an impression, I was saying something that the entire former governors of River State since 1999, they are all on one page. From Dr. Dili to Amechi to Umeha, and they are all on one page supporting the governor. How come it's only the Minister of FCT? What is this thing that you cannot allow? Life is a natural succession. Your time has passed. What is this thing that you sown in that government house that you cannot allow someone else to succeed? That is a question.
Well, the president declared a state of emergency. The president appointed a sole administrator, and the sole administrator is in charge. So are you saying that the FCT minister is the one directing the sole administrator? Is that what you're trying to imply?
It's clear. Okay, let me do a practicable listen. All the sole administrators, purported sole administrators appointed at the local government level, they are all cronies of the FCT minister. If you come to Obiakpo, for instance, the uncle of the sole administrator, I'm mentioning him, Dr. Underwater, is the sole administrator of Obiakpo. If you go to Ikwere, Samuel Wanosike, the former local government chairman, the penultimate local government chairman, his aide is the administrator of that local government. I can go on and mention the former director of one of the institutions, Elecha Amadi College of Polytechnic, is now the sole administrator of Paragap, that's Port Harcourt City. And those are the closest allies of the former governor. So what more can I say? It's obvious. We know that.
So you said earlier that some youths went to the government house. You alleged, rather, that they got some form of inducement. Stemming from that, how would you describe the approach of the sole administrator? You on the other side, alongside your youth, do you have some form of access to engage with the sole administrator so that you can register some of your dissatisfaction about his approach and how he's going about the business of governance in Rivers State?
Okay, I tell you what, before the suspension, I was managing the Ministry of Youth Development, and I was in charge. I was in custody of all registered and authentic youth bodies in Rivers State. And I can tell you, none of those youth groups have been invited or have had access to the sole administrator. And the people we saw the other day, none of them is known to law. I can't remember having the record of any of them in my ministry. So those are faceless youth bodies that were invited, all to muster, all to attract support, that to tell the world that we're on ground, that there are also people on one side supporting the administrator. Those are, for me, is a gross misconduct. Those are aberrations. We have certified from National Youth Council to Niger Delta Youth Movement, all the youth bodies. I have 462 youth bodies registered in my ministry. None of them have had access. They've not even been invited. So this is the gross misconduct we are facing. This is the impunity we are facing. This is the height of high-handedness that the administrator is unleashing to Rivers people.
This by no means brings a sense of hope to, the polity in Rivers State. But we'll keep the conversation going and hope that when next we talk about this, would have made progress. We must thank you very much, Mr. Chisom Gbali, for your time on the program and your thoughts on the program. We also, by the way, invited Madam Uche Ken, but we're unable to speak with her. Mr. Gbali is a former Commissioner for Youth Development, Rivers State. Thank you so much for your time on the program. Now, from one concern to another, this time we head to Plateau State. We'll try to have a conversation on what exactly is going on there to understand it and perhaps provide some lead to security agents and the government as they go about the business of securing life and property in Plateau. Stay with us. We'll be right back.
Welcome back. Let's now switch gears from Rivers to Plateau State, where in less than 2 weeks, over 100 people have been killed in what can be described as a carnage, nothing less than that. But what exactly is the issue? So a few things have happened since. The president has condemned this, he's given instructions to the governor, and has even told the political leaders to find a solution that has lasted for decades, saying this tit for tat is just enough. What are the next action? We had the NSA visit in the last time. We had the Chief of Army Staff also visit, but it looks like that visit is not really solving any problem. So I want to look at it from the expert's point of view on how to find a solution to this problem. I'm being joined in the program by the CEO of the Breeze Protection Services Limited and security expert, Mr. Dixon Osagie, also a U.S. Army retired Army officer from the U.S. Army, human security expert, Major Adebayo Adeleke, joining us from our Abuja studios. Gentlemen, thank you so much for coming on the program.
Thank you for having me.
All right, let's start from here. Mr. Osagie, I remember vividly 2023, December 24th, when this kind of carnage happened. We had about, I think, 150 or so. And not too long after that, I think in January that year, if I'm correct, another happened. So cumulatively, we're talking about almost 200 people being killed, just like that in a space of 2 months. But this one, in a space of less than 2 weeks, another 100 are beneath the ground for perhaps problems they don't know the origin and whatever. And we keep this blame game every now and then. So my first question will be your general assessment of what exactly is playing. Is it that we continue not to be brutal with our honesty, and so this has to continue, this is continuing, or are you seeing from the government and at all levels, are you seeing any effort to bring closure to this problem?
Fantastic question, Geoffrey. I think the incident in the Plateau State is disturbing. Nigeria is fast becoming a criminogenic country because the spate of crime, criminal activities, killings here and there is not good. And when you look at the 2024 Global Peace Index, we are 144 of the 163 countries across the world. That tells you that the peace index is not smiling at us here in Nigeria. The Plateau killing is disturbing. When the National Security Advisor went there, he thought maybe words can, bring the situation or resolve the situation of Plateau. I was very young, 2 or 3 years old, when Plateau incident has been ongoing, and up till now, we still have it ongoing. I tell you, the problem here is not security issues. This is national tragedy, because there's a difference between security issues and tragedy. What we experience in Nigeria is a national tragedy, and this is not a reactionary methodology, because what I see here is reactionary methodology. When you carry out reactionary methodology in a given situation, security has been defeated, and that tells you that our people will keep on living in a state of fear, and these criminals will keep on killing our people and go scot-free. What we need to be looking at is preventive methodology, because if we just keep on using our words instead of action, I tell you, Geoffrey, this killing will continue. It's not about words, it's not about condemning this incident, it's all about going all out to declare a war against this criminal element. When the El Salvador president came on board, he said, hey, enough is enough. And what he did, he built a special criminal zone, prison for all these criminal elements in El Salvador, and keep on going after them. So let's go after this criminal element and stop this reactionary methodology.
Major, let's come to you for a moment. I know you served in the U.S. Army, and so you can do comparative analytics as to where we are doing well and where we're not doing well, and how we can intervene and solve this problem. What beats me, what bothers me as a person is to the effect that we just come on TV, on radio, on pages of newspapers, in our private spaces, and read 54 people dead, 49 people killed. It is human beings. We're talking fathers here, we're talking mothers, we're talking children, we're talking all classes of people. So there are orphans now, there are widows, there are widowers, there are all classes of people being created, and it's just a recurrent decimal. Major, that's for you.
Good morning, and it's quite unfortunate what is going on in Plateau State. It's been going on for quite some time now. So it's disheartening. This is genocidal in nature. Can you hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you. Go ahead.
Hear me? Okay. Yes, it's genocidal in nature, and I believe that, saying, we're going to find security solutions to this thing, we've passed that stage at this particular moment in time. And unfortunately, this is how, this kind of conflict, unending conflict, this is how it starts, and it's been like that for quite some time. So our security architecture that we have for Nigeria has failed Plateau and Benue State encompassing. So it's quite unfortunate. It seems as if you guys are not hearing me. Am I just talking to myself?
Major, please go ahead. We can hear you loud and clear.
All right. So it's all right. Good. So it's quite disheartening. Now, looking at the numbers, looking at this geopolitical zone in itself, I think last year, from 2023 to 2024, I think they have over about close to 3,000 attacks. And unfortunately, this thing has been going on and has not made major news. And now we have almost, so many people displaced. And the disheartening part is when you look at the news coming out of the region, people are saying that we've seen this thing before. This is the tactics that we've seen over and over and over again. So it now begs the question. We keep seeing these tactics over and over again. They come in the middle of the night, they kill, they leave, they kill, they leave. They come during the planting season, they kill, they leave. They come during the harvest season, they kill, they leave. It's like, wow. So there's a pattern to this craziness, and yet we have yet to find solution to it. So let's talk about how we even get there in the first place. How the security architecture that we have in Nigeria has failed Plateau and Benue State. I know the current administration has done so much when it comes to, extending their security architecture to move around, and they've done awesome job in the last 1 year. But there are few things that are lacking, and those few things are actually making every effort that they've done in the past are making it look like they haven't done much. This particular thing that we're going on in the Plateau State right now needs one thing and one thing only. We have to break down the security architecture of Nigeria. It's not working. It's not working. It's been there for decades now. This particular killing has been going on for on and on. So you put in, or is it a new wine in old skin, or old skin in new wine, whatever, it's not working. So we have to restructure. To really fix Benue and Plateau State, we have to look into how our security architecture has really failed Nigeria so far. And we can get into that in the further discussion.
Definitely.
But I'll let,
Major.
I won't kind of steal the show, but during the course of our discussion, we'll talk more on that.
Right, definitely, because I know your background in immigration as well will come to bear here, because this is said to be a settler, indigene issue and all. But let me come to Mr. Osaje right here in our studio. And looking at what the president said, the president's statement to this, saying that, this is deeply rooted in misunderstanding, described it as tit for tat. That's from the president's perspective. And you understand that the president has a dashboard of all of the factors responsible. You expect that the NSA, all of the security heads and chiefs will brief him that this is what is responsible. So president describing this as deeply rooted in misunderstanding, calling this tit for tat. But then you hear from the indigents now saying, well, this is just land grabbing. This is an attack by those who describe as Fulani herdsmen. They said it clearly. Some have described it as religious, ethnic as the root of it. Clearly something is wrong here. Right? Yeah. Because for the federal government to say it is one thing, the people themselves say it is another thing. How then do you approach this? Because the government will then be hesitant in going full hog, going all kinetic. They'll say this is maybe needs more non-kinetic, since they say it's misunderstanding tit for tat. How must we approach this, leaving all of those, misunderstandings in quote as to the real root cause of it?
Fantastic question, Kayode. Anything that poses threat to human life must be eliminated. Whether the president says this or not, or whether the NSA says this or not, or the people says this or not, we're talking about the Nigerian people here, and we're talking about human lives. And human lives cannot be replaced with anything, because human lives are irreplaceable. So whatever the case may be, anything that poses threats to human lives, the rule of engagement says eliminate it. It's not about substitution, it's not all about replacement, it's not about engagement, it's all about elimination, which implies that you must eliminate the threat. And if you want to eliminate the threat, you go after these people with full force and momentum. So now what the government needs to start looking at is that, we have three tiers of government, Kayode. The federal government, the state government, and the local government. We're not even looking at the community. For me, we should be looking at the community as the fourth tier of government, because these people need to start governing themselves. Looking at the governable space of Nigeria, or government space of Nigeria, it's a very wide landmass, and these guys capitalize on the vulnerability of those landmarks, because where these attacks are taking place, if you go there, Kayode, outside camera, you discover that there are no security presence there. So if there are no security presence there, then the security agent needs to fall back on board and understand that security is all about being responsive and being preventive. What do you do? I have said it on many occasions that we can't just wait every time for incident to happen before the IG sends tactical squad or whatever the case may be. And that is why security management, you need to go around the country and carry out crime mapping analysis. I've said this here on many forums. The reason why you carry out crime mapping analysis is to identify possible prone area and also carry out what we call risk treatment within these possible crime-prone areas. If you don't carry out crime mapping analysis, you won't be able. For example, just now in this Baza local government, this incident has been occurring from year in, year out, decades. You understand? This attack on this community. So what the government should be looking at, okay, can we build military bases around this area? Or if we cannot build military bases, can we increase the number of our policing strength? Our policing strength, I must tell you the truth, cannot govern this country. About 400,000 police officers and men cannot govern this country. Now, going by the threat Nigeria, we need to improve on our security forces and our military forces, and also build on intelligence, local intelligence, and also bringing this community on board. This community to defend themselves, and that is just the way out.
By the way, if you go on social media, you see some of those community members saying, well, it's time for us to arm ourselves.
I agree with them.
But the challenge is that this might now go extreme. But going back to the previous attack in Bokos, and now the latest one in Basa, you said that they are far apart. So exactly. They're not close. There's like 2 or 3 local governments in between them. So when the one in Bokos happened, there was a lot of attention. You could see the police deploying, the military deploying. So was this some sort of distraction? Because maybe there was a lot of attention on Bokos, and then the attack in Basa happened. let me take this to Major. I want us to have a back and forth on this one. So Major, you have experience in immigration, right? And it said on your profile that you have experience in immigration when it comes to the U.S. military. This has been described as a settler-indigene issue. So people who migrate come, and then they have issues with the indigenes, and it escalates. Again, the presidency describing it as a tit-for-tat situation. How, when it comes to best practices, should issues like this be dealt with when it comes to settler and indigene?
Thank you. When it comes to the issue of human security, there are 7 areas. There is economic security, there is food security, there is community security, there is political security, there is health security, and there is what is called physical security. For lack of better word, we've been lazy when it comes to the issue of human security in Nigeria. Let's take, for example, like just as Mr. Osage said, when you go to this mango area, you can't secure mango from Jos, And one thing that when we talk about security, we've overextended the military. They should be actually kinetic in nature. A lot of what is going on in these areas, especially when it comes to community security and the issue of migration, because this particular thing that is going on in Plateau State right now is going to ultimately affect our food security in some point. In the next month, you will begin to see the impact of this. If I don't know better, I would say that somebody is actually very surgical in the way they actually destabilize Nigeria with the way some of these killings are going. We have to understand community security. We've not invested a lot of money in there. I love the Nigerian military. They are the pride and joy of Nigeria. But at the same time, we have devoted so much money into Nigerian military that, when I was crafting the threat analysis and the threat matrix for Nigeria for 2025, the number one threat is these killings that are happening, the genocide, the extrajudicial, all these type of killings are the number one threat. Not Niger, not Burkina Faso, not Mali. We don't have external threat like most of other countries do. Our threat to the national security of Nigeria resides within the people. We need to invest more in the non-kinetic effort that kind of handles this kind of opportunity, these kind of situations within the country. The community security, is number one. That it involves sociological and anthropological kind of methods, living within the community, understanding their aches and pains, why they move from one location to the other. These are the areas, people on the ground are the one telling you the real fact. The president is trying to he's trying to be political in a way so that, he is not shifting left or right. I understand his point of view. But what people are seeing, what they are feeling, the pain, the people that are ranging, the people that are burning their houses, people that are ranging over their farmlands, they know who they are. So it is imperative that we take both the strategic, the operational, and the tactical security and pull it all together and start understanding community security. We spend so much, don't let me use the word waste, we spend so much money on aircraft and all this and all that, but the number one thing that we need to do is to protect human lives, and we've not been able to do that adequately. We can digest and we'll kind of dissect this thing further, but the human element in Nigeria has been left uncatered for so long. And the people that were saying that, maybe Nigerians should should have arms, they're not too far from the truth, because at this point, if the government is not protecting its citizens, your number one responsibility is to protect yourself. So there is an argument, there is a plausible argument for that. But let's not go that far yet. Let's look into how our communities can be empowered so that we can protect ourselves. That's number one. That's the number one thing. And that has to be done by all the level of government involved.
Yeah, Major Adeleke, the people seem to have been left with no choice. You said something significant earlier, that the architecture of Nigerian security agencies has failed. And indeed, to back that up, Mr. Osage said that we must stop this reactionary approach to dealing with these matters. We must go after those who are causing mayhem in our communities. But there's something that is significant, and I'm bringing that to you now, Mr. Osage. There's something that is significant about these pattern of killings, and I wonder if we can go after these people if we do not know who we're dealing with. When you know your enemy, you know how they fight, and you know the approach that you can deploy. Are you sure that the Nigerian security agents, have full, knowledge of those who seemingly continue to cause mayhem in these communities? I ask this question because sometimes some members of these communities who seem to survive these attacks, they say that some of these people speak foreign languages. What are your thoughts on this?
Yeah, Nigeria is under invasion, tactical invasion, because these guys sometimes speak foreign languages. I've seen videos moving around the space where most of these guys don't even speak English, don't even speak Nigerian dialect. So that tells you that Nigeria has been invaded due to the porosity of our national borders. That is a discussion for another day, because we'll be talking about border security. A borderless country is a no country. So let's get it clear that if our border is not well protected, Nigeria is diving on the side of terrible risk. So for me, what we should be looking at presently, I think we need to start looking at community responsiveness, because for me, I strongly believe that if the government fails me, if the society fails me, if the state fails me, I should not fail myself, and that is the truth, because most of our community people are living in a state of fear, and we've just leave everything in the hands of federal government and state government. We need to start looking at community responsiveness, whereby we need to start training our communities, start looking at territorial reinforcement, and also looking at how most of these guys will be protected, or move them from maybe any community that is being perceived as a high-risk area. If you live, I was born in the north, Maiduguri precisely. I grew up in Sokoto State. I also stayed in Zaria. So I understand the northern terrain is a very massive landmark. So you understand, a state in the north is bigger than southwest, southeast, and some part of the country. So what we should be looking at as a country is that we need to start going after this criminal element. Let's have a plan. Security plan. Now, Major made some fantastic points. In the area of our security design architecture, it's not been flawed, because I've gone through our national security design. But how often do we review them now? An incident that's transpired now, the Plateau incident, is how do we capture it in our national security strategy, and how do we respond to it? Because the whole essence of national security strategy is to identify what poses threat and risk to the Nigerian people, and also profile mitigation factors to ensure that such risk is being eliminated. So if we want to get things right, we need to review our national security strategy, and also ensure that our military, our police go all out after these people. But let's not leave out the community in the area of intelligence, because we need intelligence to succeed. These criminal elements are using intelligence to also strike, because they know where our military are. They know where our military are advancing from. If our military are advancing from the east or from the north, they get the intelligence, and they will come from the south and engage our people. So all out, we must ensure that we cover our territory with surveillance, and ensure that these guys.
There's a part we didn't touch because of time, maybe some of the time, which has to do with those communities that have been taken over, as alluded by the governor. Yeah. Over 60 community. Are we still back to those trenches again? We don't know. Well, thank you, Dr. Dixon Osaje, CEO of Debris Protection Services Limited, and the security expert, also Major Adebayo Adeleke, who served in the U.S. Army and who is also a human security expert. Gentlemen, thank you so much for coming on the program. We appreciate you.
Thank you for having me.
All right, we'll take a quick break. When we come back, we'll talk about the state of the nation. Is it going to be a potpourri of areas in terms of driving national conversation? Join us again.
So let's broaden the conversation now. And as you can see, we're joined on the program by Hajia Najatu Muhammad, also simply known as an activist, but she's held several positions, formerly in the APC, the Presidential Campaign Council. But she joins us live from our Kano studio. Good morning, Hajia. Welcome to the Morning Brief.
Hello, good morning.
Well, it's good to see you again, and we'll just get right into it. The issues concerning security in the country, particularly the Plateau, majorly parts of northern Nigeria, is unpalatable. And I know that you've been a commissioner of the Police Service Commission. In fact, you've been a member of a committee responsible for fostering reconciliations between the Boko Haram sect and the Nigerian government. So you have a good understanding of the workings of security behind the scenes, on the ground, and even beyond. So let's speak to the Plateau situation for a start, and perhaps in other parts of northern Nigeria. Is this a challenge still with our security architecture, or there's something that this government is still missing in terms of insecurity?
First and foremost, you have to understand that the primary responsibility of any government on earth is to give security to life and property to the populace, to give the populace, their citizens, an enabling environment to live in peace and conduct their businesses peacefully. Any government that fails to give this primary responsibility has lost its authority to govern. Governing is about securing the country. It's about the welfare of the country. So let me tell you, we have to go back and look at the structure, the architectural structure of the Nigerian security system. The Nigerian security system, it must be understood that it's a colonial system. It's a colonial system, and nothing has changed. Nothing has changed because they are primarily created to serve and to protect the imperialists. These imperialists have been taken over or have shifted to our local so-called rulers. Having worked in the Police Service Commission, having been in the dialogue committee with Boko Haram, I got to learn a few things. One of the things that I have learned is that insecurity is a multi-billion-dollar industry. It is both internal and external. It's about the sale of arms and the sale of drugs. It's about the exploitation of the mineral resources in our country. For so long as this is not addressed, then we can never make headway. For that, you need a very, very patriotic and visionary leader. When I was with the Boko Haram Dialogue Committee, I sat with some of those that were in prison. And I would tell you that in the whole of Borno, there is no house in which there isn't a victim of the Boko Haram. I interviewed a 13-year-old at Giwa Barracks, and he told me that they were just picked up on the streets by this so-called Boko Haram, and they were trained to kill. They have an indoctrination in which anyone that has a big car, it doesn't matter what your religion is, he should just be killed. So what I'm trying to say is this: in a situation where your security apparatus have no synergy within themselves, that they are only mostly interested in what they get, and they are not even that, they are appointed on the basis of politics, on how close they are to the corridors of power, or whoever is selecting them, normally the president, is doing so not because of competence, but because of his personal interest and his personal protection, not to protect the Nigerian citizens. So for that reason, you cannot expect anything. So if we go back to the Plateau, it's not unique to Plateau. It's all over. It's all over the north. And it's about the exploitation of the mineral resources of northern Nigeria. Anywhere you see this kind of carnage, then make sure there's mining going on there. This is only a smoke screen to divert the attention of Nigerians from the main problem. Let me tell you, in Plateau, this has been happening for decades. They use the tactics of divide and rule. And unfortunately, for the victims and the perpetrators, they don't seem to understand that they have a common enemy. You cannot continue to blame. Where is your intelligence? I mean, what happened in Plateau is sickening. Before the so-called tit for tat, like the president said, the Fulani settlement was ravaged. Their outlaw was slaughtered. His head was put on a stick. So they went. I mean, What sort of a country is this that you cannot even preempt, that you don't even have the intelligence of what uses our DSS? They are busy eavesdropping on our phones. They cannot eavesdrop. They cannot tell us. They cannot tell the government before time that there's going to be this or that. So it's the total failure of both the military elite and the politicians. The politicians are the biggest benefactors of this, from the east to the west to the north and wherever you are in Nigeria. You see, just recently, Zulum of Borno complained that some of the territories of Borno are being taken by the Boko Haram. But what happened? They began lying, insulting him. What I'm trying to say is that the people in power, unfortunately, in this country, are such pathological liars. They all think that we don't see and we don't feel. That it's all about them.
If you can hear me, Ajay.
What the NSA just said, having gone to Plateau, he said 90% of terrorism has been wiped out.
Ajay, can you hear me?
He knows it's not true. But what I'm trying to say, no. What I'm trying to say is this: unless and until a government can take its responsibility seriously, it's not about.
I have to come in here, Ajay, if you can hear me, so that we can expand the conversation. If you can hear me, so you mentioned two things I would like you to perhaps expatiate on. One of the things you said is that both the perpetrators and the victims don't know they have a common enemy. And I would like you to extensively identify who you'd refer to as this common enemy. And in addition to that, what has to be done?
The common enemy is the government that has refused to give them the protection that is a right. That is the common enemy. The common enemy is not the Fulani man or the Birom that are both killed, that are both victims. Nobody chooses to be where they are. And the Nigerian Constitution has given everyone the right to live peacefully everywhere. Our common enemy are really the politicians, because the politicians determine how the military work. They determine who is the IG,
Ajay, just a moment.
And what he is supposed to do.
Just a moment. Just a moment.
Look,
if you can hear me, just a moment. So, the people, for instance, in Plateau, are very clear on who they feel is their problem. They say the Fulani herders, and they say this is about land grabbing. Just hold on, Ajay. Just hold on, Ajay. Just hold on. I would like your intervention in this. So just hang on. Let me just land, please. So they say this is about land grabbing. It's about ethnic cleansing. We've spoken with even government officials that have alluded to this. So in your view, when people say these things, how best can it be tackled? Because the governor, the president, for instance, is saying this has been an age-long issue. You have to look for a way within yourself to solve this problem. The words were fairly and, giving it a long-term solution.
It's not my responsibility. No, sir. No. The responsibility, the primary responsibility of any government, like I said earlier on, is to protect its citizens. Why are they, in fact, assuming it's all the Fulani fault, how did they allow the Fulanis to continue to kill the indigenous people of Plateau? Why? How? Why have they failed to give the people of Plateau, like everyone else, the protection that they have a right to? It's not only in Plateau, it's happening all over the north. How many thousand people have been killed by bandits? In Zamfara, Katsina, Sokoto, Kebbi, Niger. You understand? It is happening as we speak. As we speak, people are, just recently, Truji, one of the biggest bandits who he openly claimed that he's working with people in power. He said it. He mentioned their names. But what happened? They are occupying high places. Just recently in this Eid, he slaughtered 15 people like rams. Like ram, he laid them down and he was making a video of it. 15 people he slaughtered. You see, the point I'm trying to make is that it does not make any difference to the victim. It doesn't matter who kills you, whether it's the bandit, whether it's IPOP, whether it's the Fulani, the victim has been killed. So it doesn't really matter who kills you. What I'm trying to say is that the government has failed in its most primary responsibility to Nigerians. If you truly love the people of Plateau, why have you failed? Why have you failed to protect them? So when I talked of divide and rule, politicians have also used these bandits as political thugs. Do you know that? Yes, they are political thugs. When they fail to give them education, when they fail to even pay their salaries for over a year. I remember what happened during the governorship of Jank. For over a year, he was not paying salaries, but they were instigating his own people to look the other side and say, your problem is not me, your problem are the settlers. So what I'm trying to say is this: both the victims and the victimizers have a common enemy. Their common enemy are people in government.
All right, Ajia.
They will never be allowed to see that because their attention has been diverted to religion and tribe. That is not the issue.
Hajia.
The issue is that you have no right to peace and to live in peace anywhere in the country. You don't have that right.
Hajia. If I may come in there, you said earlier, just after you made the point that
brainwashed.
This is happening everywhere, regardless of, not just Plateau alone. You said a bandit, admitted to working with the government and killed 15 people, slaughtered 15 people. Which state are you saying that this happened in? Just to clarify.
From them. The media is part of the problem because they decide which victim to protect and which victim to victimize. We have to make these things very clear. This is the situation of things in the country. The government cannot continue to lie to us. The reality is that we are all at risk. This is the reality of our country today.
I doubt that you heard me earlier, but I'm just going to go straight to my question, Hajia. This is happening also in other states of the Federation besides Plateau State. Can you hear me now, Hajia Najatu? All right, I hope that you can hear me in the course of this question. You said that this is happening not just in Plateau State, but in other parts of the north. But this is happening in other parts of the country as well, where there are concerns about farmer-herder clashes, which leads to killings, more often than not, killings of those whose farms have been attacked. I'd like you to speak to that. In those states of the Federation as well, is the government the common enemy? And while you're reflecting on that, there was a video released recently of someone who used to be a member of the government, a senator of the Federal Republic representing, that used to represent Kaduna, who was addressing Fulani youths, and he admonished them to, address their own Fulani brothers who seem to be at the heart of this conversation, who are accused of killings and kidnappings, that they are educated Fulani youths, and he's urging them to prevail on their Fulani brothers to desist from this. I'd like you to speak to that part of the conversation, Hajia, if you can hear me.
Look, yeah, I can hear you right now.
Yeah, go ahead.
You see, what I'm trying to say is this. Nuhu Rubado, when he was in the Plateau, he said one thing that I think is good and which should be looked into. He said we have to look at the root cause of these problems. Well, what are the root causes? You have to understand, like I said earlier, that security is a multi-billion-dollar industry. How do the perpetrators get their guns? Where do they get their ammunition? Where do they get their training? This question was asked to the CDS. I can remember quite clearly. Who are the sponsors? But even the CDS refused to answer because it was too much for him to answer. Well, I'll give you the answer. Like I said earlier on, you have to look at things holistically. I said there's the imperial factor, the stealing and the plunder of our natural resources. There's also the local factor. The local factor which you want us to address is this, that why are our youth engaging in this? This is a new thing that is happening to us because Nigeria's demographic, over 75% of the population, especially up north that I know, are made up of youth from age 75 down. Oh, sorry, age 35 down. Now these are the uranium, they are the engine, they are the energy of the country. When you have 75% of your youth, age between 35 down, that are unemployed, uneducated, ill-informed, jobless, they become cannon fodder. And why did they get into this situation? So unless this issue is addressed, these things will continue because they will now start looking onto each other. Oh, this is my enemy. The closer your neighbor becomes your enemy. I want to have what your neighbor my neighbor has. But they are all pulverized. They are all in the same boat, but they don't seem to understand. And the indoctrination by our clerics, both Muslims and Christians, they are also agents of this chaos. So the government or the people in government love to divert attention from giving good governance by making the population kill each other while they usurp and steal our resources. I would want to give you an example of Zamfara, for instance. Right. Zamfara, Katsina. We have a Ministry of Mineral Resources. What are bandits doing there? Who are they working for? The bandits are just the pawns for politicians and illegal miners. They are the smoke screen. I remember, now we have a Ministry of Mineral Resources, for instance. How much has the Ministry of Mineral Resources remitted to government? How much is our gold? Zamfara has more gold than Ghana. I have seen Zamfara government traded in Wall Street. How? Why? What is Nigeria getting? Youth in Kebbi, Sokoto, Zamfara are living in such abject poverty, and there are so many. They are not educated, they have no hope for tomorrow, and they have to eat. Tell me what they do. They become agents of these imperialists, and their local partners, their local clients, so to say. Zamfara gold is being traded. Right, billions, maybe, of dollars.
If I could come in here quickly, Hajia, to get more clarity on this. You seem to be saying clearly that there's a connivance from government at different levels, complicity as the case may be. For this Tinubu administration, I'll tell you, well, it's 2 years in, right? This is something he inherited from the previous government, the Muhammadu Buhari administration, whom you're close to, I must say. So for all the killings, the kidnappings that we saw during that time, even on the Plateau, hundreds were killed. Would you say that previous government was also complicit? Was there a connivance from that previous government as well?
It's sickening when people in power continue to blame their predecessors. For instance, I started Buhari's campaign in 2002. I've never denied it, and I will continue to say it. But the point is this: Buhari failed, and we never missed our words throughout his 8 years. I had never minced my words. But what hurts me is this. They continue to blame. Buhari blamed Jonathan for the 8 years that he was there. And now Tinubu is doing the same thing. But what I'm trying to say is that when they were campaigning to take over power, didn't they look at the problems? Was it just about their ego to be presidents? Didn't they have a blueprint for governance? Is it just that you come in, they are telling us they are less, they are telling us they are unpatriotic, they are telling us that they don't give a hoot about Nigerians. Why do you blame? Why did you get there in the first place? Why did you get there? If you know that you don't have a blueprint, if you know that you don't have the capacity or the ability to solve Nigerians' problems, why did you get there? Why do you sought to be there?
All right, Ajia, just a moment, Ajia. I need to wind down.
For what you cannot do.
Can you hear me, Ajia?
This is what Buhari did. And I had never accepted what Buhari did. So I supported Buhari.
Ajia,
I
can you hear me?
supported the Buhari.
Can you hear me, Ajia? Yes.
I accepted, or that I kept quiet during the mutilation of our country that he did. Buhari actually, look, the corruption in Buhari's government was mind-blowing, and that corruption, that malignant corruption, is still here.
Ajia, just a moment. If you can hear me, I think we're maybe having a network. I don't know. Can you hear me, Ajia?
Yes, I can.
We just have about a minute. If you can answer this in 1 minute. So now, people are saying the people who are victims who have to take their destiny in their own hands. We cannot just blame government. There is a holistic blame to go around if you look properly. Sometimes there is a political undertone in all of this. Now, in your view, as somebody who lives and understands the North, what is left to the victims? Because what we are looking for now is to stop the killing, and then other conversations can start.
Look, let me tell you, anyone who does not blame the government for its responsibility, then it's not serious. You know, everyone should be given the right to defend themselves. But what is happening today is that I can't own a gun to defend myself. The DSS and the police will be all over me. But I don't know how they allow the bandits. Helicopters were seen dropping guns, ammunition, and food, and all sorts of technologies to bandits. The government did not do anything. So the government is in tandem with this insecurity. Like I said, even the military budget is colossal. But what is happening into it? And there is no synergy between the security apparatus. There is no synergy between the police and the army. In fact, the military has taken over the work of the police. There is no synergy between the DSS and the army, right, or the Air Force and the army or the Navy. I mean, it's crazy. So who do we blame?
That's a fine
Do
place.
I go and be a military brass? No, you
Hajia,
can't.
I think that's a great place
to
let it be for now.
Maybe people should
there's
be
still a lot more things
arms.
that we need to take up with you, Hajia. If you could hear me, we're totally out of time, but I believe this has been a fruitful conversation so far. We have to thank you so much, and we need to have another type of this conversation in the future, because we're not talking about governance, politics, the dividends that are meant to be for the people aside security, but we have to anchor now, and hoping that you will join us sometime soon to continue this conversation on a broader topic. But we've been speaking with Hajia Najatu Mohammed. Clearly, she speaks her mind, and you can't stop her. She's an activist, a former member of the APC, former member of the Presidential Campaign Council, former Commissioner of Police Service Commission, and so much more positions that she's held. Thank you for your time, Hajia.
Thank you so much.
Well, we'll take a quick break now while we try to digest all of that. But there's more for you on the show, so please stay with us. We'll be right back.
Welcome back. And so from security concerns, let's go to another that is equally important, the economy. And on our Ease of Doing Business edition this week, we'll be looking at the textile manufacturing industry. And joining us to have this conversation is Dr. Hama Kwajafa. He's the Director General, Nigeria Textile Manufacturers Association, and he's right here in our Lagos studio. Good morning, sir. Thank you so much for coming, and thank you for holding on.
Thank you very much. No problem.
Right, so let's start this way. Of course, at the heart of this conversation is that Nigeria used to be a textile manufacturing giant.
Yes.
And, you know, it's lost that glory, so to speak. So now we are said to be importing annually $4 billion worth of textile into the country.
Yes.
Tell us, how did we get here?
Very good question. And just like we've seen our companies, particularly the airline and the ports, the shipping line, how they just decimated. The same thing has applied to anything Nigerian, especially the textiles. We had about 200 textile mills thriving, employing more than 250,000 Nigerians. And from nowhere, gradually they decimated and gradually closing one by one, up to the point that now we only have 20 textiles out of the 200. What happened was that there's a lot of counterfeiting of our products. They take our designs, go to China, and get polyester raw material, not cotton. So it's a cheaper product. And they flood our markets with that kind of product. And the consumer wouldn't know, and the customer wouldn't know the difference in the market when they flood our markets. When they see the designers made in Nigeria, they just buy it anyhow. And those are the ones that wash away within 2-3 days, and they blame it on Nigerian textile. But these are counterfeited products that go to Asia and other developed countries. And actually it's our dealers that went there because they wanted a cheap product. Easy profit, where they can flood our market. We go to our markets now today, you don't see Nigerian textile products manufactured locally. Everything is counterfeited, everything is imported, and we don't have a marketplace. So, I mean, how can you have an FDI in a country and you don't have a market for them? And we continue to complain, but government listens less, or they don't take much interest, what have you. We don't know, because there's no country that will see 200 textile mills closing and do not take serious action. You can see today, even in the auto industry in the UK, the government is injecting £2.3 billion sterling into that industry so that it survives. It's not a loan to companies. This is totally an injection into the industry. The same thing should have been done for the textile industry in such a way that they can come up. Nobody listened. And that's how it was left. What they will give will be loan to the industry, and it will be difficult for them to pay back when there's no market for them. They retool the companies. BOI will give about 100 billion, for instance, to the industry quoting textile garment at say 6% interest rate. So as low as it is, they couldn't pay because they don't have market, they cannot sell.
So one of the things I want you, because you are the forefront of this, how much of what we wear that we claim to be traditional is really produced here? In terms of, if you do a percentage, because we brag that, you're wearing traditional, for instance. On Saturday, Bukola and I had to dress traditional and all of that. So, and after the conversation, Mr. Aremu, the Labour leader, had actually called me and said, "Great, you look great, but I can tell you that 90% of what you're wearing, a lot of them is imported." And I was quite sad. So, by your books, how much of what we wear, claiming to be made in Nigeria, is really from us?
Yeah, it's not really actually claiming per se. What we're saying is that the price differentials. When they flood our markets with our own design, and it damages the skin with the polyester on the skin instead of cotton. We have abundant cotton, but because of the cost involved in manufacturing cotton and producing it to dress, the total cost coming out, the price will be higher than the one they will flood in our markets with counterfeited ones from China, for instance. Because see, the problem is issue of infrastructure and competitiveness. Poor infrastructure, okay, and then these countries are nuclear countries. If there's anything they want to do with power, they can do it. Nigeria is having about less than 4,000 megawatts of electricity with 200 million people. While South Africa, that has 60 million people, has about 50,000 megawatts of electricity. And this is a country that we have to get independence. Yet they are above us every time. I don't know what happened in this country that we slack down everything, we relax, and just looking at maybe politics or power and what have you. We have seen how presidents live in Rwanda, all over, but look at Burkina Faso. You don't need to have bumper jets up and down or build houses that are above the minimum wage of people. I mean, why must you have billions of naira jets when the Rwandan will carry briefcase and stay in business class? On any plane, and they go there. And we don't want to sacrifice.
Right. I want us to talk about how to now begin to take action. Because we've talked about this a lot, and you've given us the statistics that from 200, the manufacturers dropped to 20.
Yeah.
And I imagine the 20 are struggling.
Precisely, they're seriously struggling.
There you go. So who knows how long they would last for. So let's wind down on this. It is no news that we've lost market to China.
Yes.
Is it too late in the day to start, in quotes, trying to gain the market? And if we must, if there's one thing that the government has to do, what should that thing be if we must gain our ground back?
Thank you very much. Very good question. And particularly you can see the tariff war between US and China, for instance. Why do you think they would dump all their clothes? When they cannot take it to US market now, they will now come back to our market, and we have to really brace up. The country has to brace up and see what it can do to industry, so that we can come up. We cannot continue working on low tariff for people, and then they flood our markets and we lose business, and it becomes a security issue. Because what they're spending on security now is because of unemployment. If that kind of funds are plowed into companies to employ people and generate lots of profit for human beings, and economy improves, that will be better. We are happy now the Minister of Industry, Minister of State, Trade and Investment is coming up with a blueprint on how to revive the industry. Because we had a meeting last week, and precisely on the 9th of April. And he has come up with very good plans, whereby he said he's carrying the communiques straight to the president, to see the president, Bola Ahmed Tinubu, do something on this industry. Of course, we have seen what has happened with his wife. His wife has come up with Made in Nigeria. She used all the products of Made in Nigeria for the Independence Day. Yeah, and that's how to start.
We've heard about those ambitious plans by government to rescue the textile manufacturing sector. We hope that those plans are sustainable, such that we do not lose the gains that we plan to recoup as we make progress. But we must thank you very much. Dr. Hama Kwajafa, the Director General, Nigeria Textile Manufacturing Association, who has joined us on this important conversation right here in our Lagos studio. Thank you so much for your time, sir.
I appreciate you, Bukola. I appreciate you, Zono. And Akaide.
Thank you very much.
Pleasure meeting all of you.
We'll definitely have you back.
It's very important.
Hope to have
we want to come here every day. Let's link up to government. We'll take channel for this. You are the one only linking us with government. Communication very well between industry and the government. So that things can be done.
All right.
Fantastic. We'll do that.
Thank you very much.
There's more.
You can sit for a moment.
Hold on a second. There's more to come on the program. We'll be right back. Stay with us.
Welcome back on the last stretch of the conversation for the program. Let's talk to Onyemene Ikamen. She's Miss Diaspora Nigeria USA 2024-2025, award-winning Nigerian-American actress. Onyemene, thank you so much for coming on the program.
Thank you so much for having me.
And you look great.
Well, thank you.
What do they call that thing?
A crown. Yeah.
Well done.
Thank you. You look spiffy as well.
Thank you. So tell us about what this the pageantry now is really all about. What do they want to achieve with
So
this?
Miss Diaspora Nigeria USA, the mission is to empower young Nigerian women to evolve. And so each of us partnered with an organization in Nigeria to give back to Nigeria. And this title, I work as a bridge between Nigerians in the diaspora and Nigerians in Nigeria.
Oh, fantastic. So how has that come? Has it been, so far so good since you won? Talk to us about the journey.
So I won last August, and it was amazing. This was actually my first ever pageant.
That you participated in?
That I've ever participated in.
And you won?
And I won, yeah. That's the power of grit and determination. But it's been such a motivational experience for myself to be able to be a representative of Nigeria and Nigerians in diaspora, but also to speak on my platform, which is to empower young Nigerians through the performing arts.
So, Oyemene, you are championing a powerful vision for cultural revival and youth empowerment with your platform called Ubuntu Stage. Now, that caught my attention.
Yeah.
What does that symbolize for you, Ubuntu?
Okay, so Ubuntu is a South African philosophy, and it means, summarize, I am because we are.
Yeah.
And I think that we are so much greater together than divided. And I feel like right now we really emphasize on division, and it's really costing us in the long run. And so this is an opportunity for us to tell our own stories. I think it's very important for us to be empowered to tell our own stories and not have someone else to tell our stories. So that's why I created this platform, Ubuntu Stage, because I said, forget a table. We don't just need a chair. We don't need a table. We need a stage to be able to share our stories.
Fantastic.
I really like that. Forget a chair, forget the table. Let's get a stage.
Yeah.
Let's do it big, right?
Right?
I like it. I was looking at your bio. You're a graduate of UCLA's Master of Fine Arts Acting program, but that's not all. You also studied in China, earned degrees in business and health from Brandeis University. So there's the beauty and the brains and all of that put together. I'm curious about what your Nigerian experience is. You hear some people say, Nigeria happened to me. Here on the flip side, some say Nigeria, great people, great nation. But you can't remove all of the different mixes of experiences, right? Because you also wear Nigeria. You carry Nigeria wherever you go. That's like the first thing. So what is the Nigeria you see now? What is Nigeria that you know is possible?
Yeah, so I'm from the United States, from Boston, Massachusetts, and I'm first generation Nigerian American, so I was born in the US. And I feel like in America, there's a certain experience that you have being from a different culture. So my Nigerian experience was mostly in the home. Both of my parents are strong Nigerian parents, and so they made sure to, give us the culture, whether that be through the food or the experiences or watching Nollywood or listening to music. And so I had a very special place in my heart for Nigeria in the house. But going outside, that's where you receive stereotypes and such, which at the time was unkind. The first time I was able to actually come back to Nigeria was when I was, I believe, 14 years old. And I had an amazing experience. I just felt like once I got here, I belonged. There's nothing like being able to hear about stories from abroad, hear about stories of your home, and then to be able to participate in that. Since then, this is actually my first time back in 15 years. Yeah, so it's been a long time. It's long overdue, and I feel like like you said, there's so much potential in Nigeria. Nigeria is great. We're the African giant for a reason, am I right? Right? And I feel like there's so much promise in industries like the creative arts, which is exactly what I'm trying to put on the platform.
So you act as well, right?
I'm an actress, yeah. I received my Master's of Fine Arts from UCLA.
Oh, fantastic. So let's talk about the softer side. So since you've not been here for like 15 years, according to you, so as you came back, what have you been eating? What have you been drinking? As long as they're safe for TV, by the way. I've been eating everything from, egusi and fufu and jollof rice, fried rice. I'm still waiting to eat, all the other things like So what are you looking forward to eat that you haven't eaten?
Pepper soup.
Someone is shocked that you've eaten fufu. Because they're like beauty queen.
No, oh my goodness. That's the thing, right? So once again, this is my first ever pageant. And so as much as I was able to study pageantry and I guess what the typical beauty pageant queen would do, I also went to this experience knowing that I was going to be 100% myself. I think it's very important for us to understand, and young, beautiful women out there, young kids, young girls, to understand that they are already a queen. They just have to own it. And so I'm taking my own experiences. And so I like to eat fufu.
So you get down to fufu.
Listen,
you
yes.
dismantle it.
I could do that. I definitely could do that. If I'm hungry, I could do that.
You know, you sound like you've eaten that fufu all of your life.
Listen, my mommy is a great cook.
Wow.
Fantastic.
All right.
Now, this Nigeria diaspora is a very unique concept, and I like your Ubuntu stage. And I'm wondering, because most Nigerians, whether they're in diaspora or at home, like to think of themselves, first of all, as, oh, I'm Yoruba, I'm Hausa, I'm Igbo. How are you thinking about using your stage to unify Nigerians in diaspora under one umbrella, to think of themselves first of all as Nigerians before they think of themselves as any ethnic group?
If you could answer that in 30 seconds.
So I think it's very important for us to stand on unity as opposed to division. And you're right, we're not just Edo, Igbo, Yoruba, we are Nigerian, and we're greater together. So once we realize that and put that out into the world, just think about the power that we can achieve together.
Fantastic. So that pepper soup, you have to take it. All right?
Yes.
Somehow.
Thank you.
Miss Diaspora Nigeria USA 2024-2025, award-winning Nigerian American actress, Yemen Ehikamen. Thank you so much for coming to the program. Thank you.
Thank you all.
Okay, that's it on the program. Thanks for your time and company. I'm Jeffrey Uzoma. Bye-bye.
Yeah. Don't forget Sunrise Daily is up next. Stay with Channels TV. I am Bukola Koka.
And don't forget to eat your fufu with pride. And we just be starting off with fufu this morning. Thank you for joining us. I'm Kayode Okikili. Bye.